project managers on our Cool Parks grant project. So it's tied in with our workshop today. We also have Gerard from the city. He's our city arborist. Or you want to say a few words?
Yeah, that's okay. My name is Gerard Batista. I'm the field operations manager for the city. I happen to be a certified arborist as well. And part of my responsibility, a good part of the responsibility, is managing the urban forest for the city, along with the gardening and maintenance for a lot of the parks services that we have throughout the parks. And I just wanted to kind of, the opportunity that Urban Forest Council had and working through West Coast Arborists to have this grant opportunity is really big for us, because in this process we're going to be able to plant, which is, we'll talk more about the event coming up in October, about 200 new trees in our city. So part of understanding the process is education, and so hence today's workshop's about that. But I just wanted to welcome you all and thank you for taking the time off on your Saturday to come out here and learn a little bit about the workshop about trees, and hopefully we see your faces too in October for our tree planting event. But I'd like to also introduce one of our local council members, Ms. Liz Riley.
I also want to welcome you all. Trees are, I think trees, I'm here to learn how to take care of my trees. With the drought, I think there's a lot of misinformation about how to take care of a tree versus taking care of plants or taking care of your lawn. And we have a lot of trees that are actually dying, I think, because they're not being properly taken care of. So that's why I'm here, and I'm glad to see you all here as well, because trees are very important. They do give us the oxygen that we breathe, right? And so we want to take good care of them. So thanks for coming.
Cool, thank you, Liz.
Oh yeah, we also have Manaj from We're Building Together, who's the vice president of the organization, has been key in really getting volunteers out and helping us put together these events.
Thanks, David. Good morning, everyone. How many of you have heard of We're Building Together? All right, I like this. How many of you have green thumbs? One, that's not bad. Oh, two, okay, that's good. Well, I want to thank you for being here today. I do want to introduce our president for the We're Building Together, and that is David Guler back there. Real quick, we have some of our board members who are ready to earn their green thumbs today. We have Judy Guler right here, Bella right here, and Irene Yamagata Bermudez is right there. And I want to thank you for that. And also Melanie. I was coming to you. And Melanie right here, our newest member, by the way. Just real short, I really want to thank City Duarte, in particular Gerard, for thinking of We're Building Together and partnering with this grant. So we're looking forward to that, and we've been working closely for conferences, telephone conferences, and things of that nature. What I do want to also mention to you is We're Building Together has been a part of Duarte for the past 20 years. And we help families with low income, seniors on Medi-Cal, low income who own their homes and want to make sure that they can be in a safe haven. And we also work with organizations such as Foothill Unity, Boys and Girls Club, and so this kind of fits in where it helps the life of many people. So we're looking forward to the upcoming tree planting event. So thank you.
We also have two celebrity arborists with us, Ted and Janine, who will be taking care of the second half of this workshop with the outdoor walk around. So it's going to be really interactive, and I'm really looking forward to it myself. So that's pretty awesome, and we'll give them the chance to introduce themselves when we start that second half of the presentation. So I'll go ahead and get started with what Cool Parks is and what this grant project is about. So like I mentioned, it's well, first off, it's statewide, so we're working from down in San Diego all the way up to Sacramento with different agencies, different schools to get trees planted. It comes through cap and trade funding, so those big, large companies that are emitting into the air, they also have to pay into programs like this to offset that. And we're offsetting it by planting trees. So those trees are mitigating what these companies or organizations are doing when it comes to emitting. And we're doing this project through educating and expanding urban forests, because it's one thing just to plant trees, it's another to educate and really understand why we're doing it. So how it looks like, the funders, it's the California Climate Investment. They're the ones who distribute those cap and trade dollars, and it's distributed through CAL FIRE's Urban Forestry Program. And then our partners, the statewide partners, include the California Urban Forest Council, Invest from the Ground Up, the Western Chapter International Society of Horticulture, and West Coast Arborists, which I'm a part of. So a little bit about those organizations. The California Urban Forest Council, or CUF for short, is one of the oldest urban forestry organizations in the country. They do a great job at connecting, nurseries to urban foresters and making sure that people in arboriculture are collaborating, so we're all working towards a similar goal in improving urban forests. West Coast Arborists, who I'm a part of, we're a tree management company. We do everything from removals to grant projects like this one, managing inventories, helping cities manage their urban forests through bridge trimming and so on. We work in over 200 cities and municipalities, whether it's counties, cities. We're also in quite a few schools, and we work as a good partner because we have kind of access to these resources, to these inventories for vacant sites, connections with city contacts, and so on. And then the WCISA, the Western Chapter International Society of Horticulture, they play a huge role in inviting arborists out. They put a bunch of great resources. They connect all the arborists from the western states, so Arizona, California, Hawaii, Nevada. They help bring out volunteer arborists to our workshops like we have today, and help for planting events when we have 6 or 7 arborists that are helping, making sure the trees are planted correctly and ensuring the success of our grant project. So this, Best from the Ground Up campaign has had quite a few different partners. Just a slur of logos just to give you an idea of where we've worked so far and where we continue to work. We had our Super One project, kind of divided into these different cities, just to give you a little view of that. For 2.0, similar, we try to get across the state as much as possible. And then for 3.0, similar. For Circle 3.0, we're actually having a free tree giveaway if you live in the city of Duarte. There's a resource back there. It's a flyer on how to sign up for a tree. It's a great program. You sign up online, and then West Coast Arborists will go out and plant the tree for you. So pretty cool if you want to tell your neighbors. Duarte has done a great job in getting a lot of trees adopted. I think right now we're at 160 trees adopted for City of Duarte, so that's really great in comparison to some of the other cities. So that they're taking care.
The trees are in your backyard as well as in your front, so wherever you want them, it doesn't have to just be on the side, near the street the way you usually think about it. So you could have them in your backyard as well.
I know one of her concerns were if there's a tree, how would you know to plant it to where it won't interrupt the plumbing or anything like that?
Yeah, a good rule of thumb is 10 feet away from any physical structure, and it also depends on the tree size. You have some smaller trees. The smallest tree we have available is Australian willow, so that one, it's a little more lenient how close you can put it. Something like an oak tree, you're going to want to extend it as far as possible if you have a large backyard. And then also on the portal, it has what species available with pictures, and then our contact information is also on that website, so you can give us a call to see about that. And when they're planted, they're about the size of this one, if not smaller. So they come as pretty much saplings. So you have a lot of time to help it grow and structurally prune it the way you like it. Yeah. And then so this Cool Parks Grant project, what are we trying to do? We're trying to plant 2,500 trees. We're working in over 10 communities throughout California. Great community groups such as we're building together. We plan on having a lot of volunteers out, trying to touch as many people as we can with these tree plantings. And one of the very important quantifiable goals as part of this project, because it is through greenhouse gas funding, is the 19,100 metric tons of carbon. I'll get into, in a later slide, I'll get into what that actually looks like. So one of the criteria for these grants is identifying what's called an underserved community as defined by the state. So the state puts out this Cal Screen resource to identify communities that are more susceptible to environmental hazards. They quantify everything from traffic, population density, different types of pollution such as ozone, particulate matter, all that type of stuff. They get it together, they get all that data, and they break it up into census tracts. So I don't know if you can see two on this one. I think this one's a little better. Where Duarte is in conjunction to what's called a underserved community that's more susceptible to environmental hazards. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what we look for when picking the cities or communities, typically ones that would benefit from trees more. And this is public information. If you Google and Cal Screen, you can get this map, and it's interesting to see where you live. And if you click it, it'll give you a breakdown of what environmental hazards your community is susceptible to. Pretty interesting resource, and it's what we use for these projects. So just a quick recap on that. Statewide projects, we try to get as many people out. We host these workshops in the effort to educate, and then follow by tree planting. So just some quick pictures of how it looks like on a planting day. I know ours will be great at Encanto Park. We'll be planting quite a few trees out there, so it should be a fun day in October. We had one last weekend, and we got quite hot, so I'm looking forward to it. So that's kind of what our projects are about. I'm going to get into now urban forestry. I've said that word quite a few times, but you may not be too keen on what an urban forest is. Urban forests come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. If you look at the picture, that's a picture of kind of Duarte's urban forest from above. It's trees in cities and parks, medians, front yards, backyards. It's trees that make up urban areas. They come in gardens or arboretums. And it's just green infrastructure built throughout cities. So why are urban forests important? Well, 81% of Americans now live in urban areas. So there's been a huge shift from research in typical traditional forests, wildland forests, to urban forests, because that's where we're seeing a lot of the benefits. More people are moving to urban areas, more areas are becoming urban, and so we're seeing a shift in focus there. There's a lot of quantifiable and kind of social benefits to urban forests. They could provide a sense of community, which is a big one. I don't know if you guys, even right here when you're driving down Arbor, you could tell that you're in Duarte. Similarly in Claremont, you could tell by the trees they have. Okay, you're in Claremont. They really put together a sense of community, which is something that's important to me, and not necessarily quantifiable, but that it's something provided by the trees. They provide aesthetic qualities, which is awesome. I think that's a flowering crepe myrtle, which is nice. It might not be the biggest tree, but it's going to be a nice tree. A big one for us in our grant projects is the environmental benefits that trees provide. So I know I mentioned the 19,100 metric tons of carbon. To give you a size of reference, that is 1 metric ton of carbon, kind of just in the natural state of the air. So obviously when it enters the trees, it can get a lot more condensed, but that's just kind of what it looks like if it was just in the atmosphere. So we're trying to mitigate over 19,000 of those through the trees planted over 40 years. So huge carbon sequestration benefits. There's also other benefits that go beyond just carbon capture. There's something called the urban heat island effect. Is anyone familiar with that? So it's the idea that when there's a lot of blacktops, a lot of hardscape, heat gets trapped in those environments and it doesn't escape as easily, creating hotter communities. As we've already seen, hotter temperatures, this kind of adds to it and accumulates the effect. Well, when we plant trees, we can offset that. We're providing shade, we're reflecting heat off better. It's not being absorbed by the blacktops as much, and that's a goal we're seeing more and more in forestry, is mitigating that issue. Another big one is runoff. Runoff is, when it rains, we're seeing more increased flooding because there's more hardscapes. It's hard for the water to percolate into groundwater. As you can see, that picture is a pretty good reference of it. All the water's being pushed up against the grass, and the grass is being used to percolate that water. Well, trees also do a very good job at capturing water and mitigating that effect. They act as a buffer, whether it be through just holding the water and then evaporating it later or absorbing it. So those are some environmental benefits of trees, especially as they relate to urban environments and helping There's also economical benefits that we try to quantify as best we can. One study said that if you have a nice tree, you know, what defines nice is kind of up to you, but a nice tree can increase your home value by up to 1%. So that's one economic value of trees. There's been studies where, you know, downtowns lined with trees help increase spending. You know, you're spending more time if there's shade. If you go to like an outdoor mall where it's hot, you might spend as much time, you're not gonna hang out. Whereas, you know, as you're in a downtown area with trees, it's shaded, you're more relaxed, you're more likely to spend more money. So that's something urban foresters and researchers have looked into. And so moving on to ecological benefits, it's really fascinating to see how many protections birds have, because really birds' only habitat is in trees. They nest there, they rest there. So there's a lot of protections birds have, and it's something we look out for too when we're planting different species, you know, how well they'll support wildlife habitat. So there's many ways of quantifying it. As I mentioned, there's been a huge shift from wildland forests to urban forests. The U.S. Forest has really taken lead on that, provided a ton of different resources, both in research, maps, and being able to quantify benefits of trees, whether it's AC and energy savings from having a tree outside your house, to, you know, increase home sales or business profits. And then also on there's the iTree logo. That's what we use to quantify our benefits of these projects. So, you know, when we submit, we're quantifying how much carbon we're going to capture, how much ozone pollutants we're going to mitigate, you know, if these trees are in the ground for 40 years. So it's important to us, and it's a good way of, you know, seeing what the trees in our neighborhood are doing. So just honing on that idea, you know, we're living more in urban areas. It's becoming increasingly important. And then there's quantifiable reduced AC and heating benefits from trees that are either going in your front yard, you know, they're shading a window, so you're using your AC less. When they're deciduous in the fall, the deciduous tree is the one that loses its leaves. It allows heat to come in during the winter, so you kind of, you know, maybe use the heater less if that's the case. It's kind of the goal right there. And then annually, we see a total benefit of $18.3 billion in benefits throughout the country in our urban forest. And then I'll get into what it looks like in Duarte right now. All right, so we have two things going on in this picture. I'll first start with what the text says. So this 100 healthy trees study comes from an area in the coastal southwest region of California. You know, it varies a lot by region and what benefits you're getting, because it depends what kind of pollutants or what kind of water you're mitigating. So this one comes from relatively close to Duarte. We see what 100 large trees can do over a year. They're removing 12 tons of carbon a year, removing 505 pounds of pollutants. That's either ground level ozone or particulates. Particulates are really fine matter that we can't necessarily see with our eyes, but it does get into our lungs and can cause respiratory issues. And then they capture over 400,000 gallons of rainwater a year. So to put that in context with, you know, something local to us, this park, I mapped it out using, you know, the city's inventory, and it has a little over 100 trees, and they could provide about equivalent benefits to the study done here. So when you see at Royal Oaks Park, that's actually where we're at right now. You know, we went ahead and mapped out the trees, and we're able to kind of translate those benefits into what's seen in the study. So those are somewhat loosely interpreted benefits of the park right here, just kind of possibly give you an idea of what the park's doing. Parks do a lot more because they do have grass and, you know, habitat and all that other stuff, but just to give you an idea. And then we also have a lot going on this. Before we get into it, I just wanted to disclaim that these are City of Duarte owned trees, so this does not include trees on private property. This does not include parking lot trees or any of that. This is just medians, parks, parkways, city facilities. And these are the top 10 species in Duarte. If you want to take a look, we have the crepe myrtle, the canary island pine, and so on. Queen palm, I have some pictures on the next slide so you can see what that looks like. But it's also interesting because we have the estimated value. There's a whole official book that they put out that some really good researchers put out to kind of appraise the value of trees based on size, based on So we quantified it, we ran it through, and we were able to see how many trees of each we have in Duarte. In total, there's 6,200, so Duarte has his work cut out with managing all those trees. And we see that the most popular one is the crepe myrtle. I'll show you what a picture looks like of that on the next slide, but it's that small flowering tree. And then something also that I find interesting and noteworthy is the estimated values. So we see that at Canary Island Pine, there's only about 300, 400 of those trees compared to the crepe myrtle where there's almost 800. But we see a greater estimated value in the Canary Island Pine because those are larger trees, those are pine trees that provide more shade, more environmental benefits. So interesting to note. And then also, something that I like to touch on is the percentages. It's good to have a diverse urban forest. So right now, crepe myrtles make up 12% of the urban forest, which is, okay, you want to keep it around, 8 to 12%, no more of that in one urban forest, because there's susceptibility to pests and things of that sort. So you want to keep it diverse, and Duarte's at a great place right now. All right, so some of those trees that I just listed or had pointed out, this is the crepe myrtle tree. I think there's quite a few outside, right? And I think they're flowering right about this time, so they're very nice. They flower in red, white, pink, just a few cultivations, purple. Very nice trees. Here's a picture of a Canary Island pine, so you can see in kind of reference, Canary pines are a lot larger, they're providing a lot more environmental benefits. Here's a queen palm, which was the most popular palm planted in Duarte, we got most of it. Up here's a carrotwood tree. It's pretty distinct in that it has, its light trunk, and its leaves are pretty glossy, pretty interesting. Here's a young coast live oak. That might not have been the best picture because coast live oak can grow into a very large tree. Someone did a really good job with this tree because they were able to prune into that standard form. It has a nice round canopy. That's not always the case with coast live oak. And then also I just want to point out that that's a native tree, so very popular in planting. And then at the end is a sweet gum. Those are the ones with the little spiky balls. And during the fall, they change colors really nicely. So maybe be on the lookout for that. This is a popular tree over here. And that one is actually becoming increasingly susceptible to pests. Sweet gum and liquid amber. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of those die, and we're not planting those as much just because susceptible to pests, like I mentioned, and the environment as it gets warmer doesn't suit the liquid amber as well. So going into the importance of species diversity, we're seeing more susceptibility to pests. We're receiving crates from all different parts of the world, and as a result of that, we're seeing movement of different animals, different creatures, and as we saw recently with the pest called invasive shovel wart, it probably came into the port of Long Beach or LA, and it affected quite a bit of trees, and it really caused a big scare. And so as a response to that, it's one thing to try to mitigate that and try to keep it from coming, but as urban foresters, what do we do? Well, we need to create diverse urban forests, resiliency. We need to avoid what's called a monoculture. It is nice to see a street line with all pines or all one tree, but if a pest comes through or if it's not as climate adapt, that's going to get all wiped out. And so we're starting to see maybe alternating tree species per location. In Encanto Park, I think it's on Knott Avenue, they have really large pine trees and then small crepe myrtles. So they go in conjunction with each other pretty nicely because one canopy is over the other tree's canopy, and if one pest was going to wipe out the pines, you still have your crepe myrtles. You could replant other trees in those different locations, but you still have a well-balanced urban forest. And that's just a screenshot from an article that Professor Fred Roth wrote, and Gerard said he was his advisor back in the day.
My counselor.
Just on susceptibility to I think it's Class C winged sharpshooter and sweet gums and their susceptibility to that, and how we're seeing a lot of dieback. So this is a screenshot of those publicly owned trees. Like I mentioned, they're just parks, medians, streets, nothing on private property, and that's a screenshot of what the inventory looks like. Pretty well distributed throughout Duarte. Like I mentioned, they're currently over managing 6,000 trees. And then the height and DSH, which is diameter at shoulder height. So what you do is measure the trunk of the tree at shoulder height. It's pretty well distributed, which is good because you don't want to see trees that are too old or trees that are too young. You want to have a good balance of that as some trees are dying, you're planting more. So that's a good breakdown. Over 200 species have been identified in the city, which is interesting to know. Like I mentioned, you don't want to keep one species over 10%. And 42 avocado trees are on Duarte's inventory. I don't know if the city planted that or planted that, but I think Duarte will exchange a little $5 for the.
It's funny because folks don't know about the what we call the city's easement or space. That's the city considered city tree or city property. So they will plant. Folks will plant their own tree. I'll say this: the one I know that stood out to me is Moore Park, which is on Duarte Road, has 3 avocado trees that used to be someone's kind of a ranch property years ago. And so they kept those trees when they put the park in. So those are still thriving. Well, 2 of them are really almost done. They're dying back, but they're still another one. So a lot of people try to get up and pick the avocados throughout the year. But yes, ironically, there are a few out there. We didn't plant them, but we don't want to see them disappear either.
So this is a canopy cover map provided by the U.S. Forest Service. They have this map throughout the entire state, so if you want to check, the Bay Area, San Diego area, they have the map. And what it does is tell a picture of canopy cover. So canopy cover is going to be the understory of the tree's canopy, its foliage, and the shade it provides. So if you zoom in, you can kind of see tree by tree location. But I like this map because it kind of represents where Duarte is in conjunction to the rest of this area. So if you look, I don't know if you can tell too well by the map index, but it gives you canopy cover by percentage. So it's 0 to 11, 12 to 22, 13 to 41, and 41 to 87, or 42 to about 80. So that's canopy cover provided by trees. For Duarte, we're in the 0 to 11 area, pretty low canopy, but pretty similar to what we're seeing across a lot of these areas. It's really hard to get a high canopy number. A goal of 100% just doesn't seem feasible. That means, you're walking and there's shade everywhere. That'd be nice, but that's not necessarily going to be the case. So a goal of 15 to 30 is really well. As you can see in this area, I think it's like South Pasadena has probably the most canopy in the San Diego Valley. And then you just see the distribution throughout this area.
Can I add something, Jim, if that's okay? Just also to highlight, looking back in the inventory, like 10 years or so from Duarte, the numbers were higher. It was a lot more than 6,000 trees. It was probably 7,000 trees. And so through time, budgets, things that, you have limited resources, things that trees that don't, like we talked about the sweet gum, the liquid embers, that took a big hit in the drought. They did not recover well, and they're slowly but surely dying away. Those trees are 20, 30 years old anyway. They do have somewhat of a life cycle on some of them, but so it's crazy when you see the difference between 7,000 and 6,000. It's 1,000 trees throughout the community that in our easements and in our city that has not been replaced per se. That's why it's one of the great things about the grant. Getting 200 more back is really the beginning of getting that there. But I just thought I'd add that because when you don't get them replace them or they die because of conditions, certain conditions, you start noticing in the stats, like, wow, we don't have that much coverage anymore. It's gone down a little, whatever. So trying to maintain it. But you're right, not every spot needs a tree because it's hard to manage there, depending on space.
So typical goal is usually 15 to 20%. It's a great policy tool. We're using it now more in applications, in management plans. We're putting goals of, we're at this right now, and we're going to get to this later. So it's a great online, easy to access map if you want to check out your area. So that's all I have for urban forestry. Now we're going to get to trees, and specifically single trees. I think it's important to see this picture. I call it the tree flow diagram. And it's important to me because it's important to know where water and nutrients are going into the tree versus where the tree is getting energy, sunlight, and CO2. First off, I just want to point out that where the water comes in, roots are what takes in the water. you have feeder roots that absorb the water, take it throughout the tree, and provide the tree water. For me, that's important to know because you don't necessarily want to be watering the leaves of the tree because that's not going to do as much benefit. The same way you wouldn't put fertilizer or nutrients on the leaves, you're not going to put water on the leaves, similarly, because they both get taken in through the soil. And then also, just important, but I think this is more common knowledge, is that sunlight is absorbed through the leaves, so you don't want to put a tree by a building where it's going to be shaded most of the time. It's not able to get enough energy. So that's why I think it's important to know what's happening a little bit in the tree's biology, so that when you're caring for a tree, you remember these things and you know where the tree's going to get water, accessing the drip line and providing nutrients to the tree and keeping it exposed and get sunlight. And then a little more specifically, this diagram states some of the common terminology we use for the tree: leaves, the crown or the canopy. The foliage is going to be kind of how the leaves look in the canopy. Limbs versus branches and twigs. And then also, like I mentioned, the feeder roots, which are where you want to keep the drip line in conjunction to the canopy. So usually at the end of the canopy, you put two straight parallel lines down, and that's where the feeder roots would be. So that's where you want your drip line, or that's where you want to aim to water your tree. And then you could get more specific and check out the trunk of the tree or the branches and see what's transporting the water and nutrients both up the tree and down the tree. So pretty interesting stuff. And then we have specific characteristics. We could break trees into two different categories. Broadleaf and deciduous versus evergreen. Here's just a picture of what a deciduous tree is. They're the ones that lose their leaves during the fall. And then an evergreen tree, which are typically more like pines or needle trees. And then softwood is going to be more similar to the evergreen trees, and then hardwood is more characteristic of the deciduous trees. So when you're looking at woods, you know what tree it's coming from. And then similarly, we know that gymnosperms come from evergreen trees, and that's why they have those cones. They're a lot more resilient. That's why you'll see them at higher altitudes or in conditions where it's a little rough. Like even for these mountains, I know I was in Mount Baldy recently, and you see a lot of evergreen trees. A lot of those trees are more resilient rather than angiosperms tree. And then we could break it up into different forms, different canopies, round, spreading. Like I mentioned, the coast live oak was pretty nicely touched, but it's probably going to look more of a spreading, how it grows naturally, versus a pyramidal or conical shape, which might be more characteristic of a cedar or a pine tree. And then how we actually identify a tree, though, comes through its leaf. The leaf structure, whether it has a leaf on every other side, whether it's toothed at the rim or lobed. The valley oak right here I have is lobed. And it's interesting because to me, from a distance, the valley oaks and coast live oaks look really similar. But when you get close and you look at the leaf, they're very different. Coast live oak has those pointy leaves, and then the valley oak has the lobed ones. And something also interesting about trees is their smell. So I'm going to pass around some of these camphor leaves. If you want to take this. When you break up the leaf, it has a really distinct kind of cinnamon smell. You go ahead and pull it off, grab it. If you want to pass those that way, come right on this side. Yeah, go ahead and break it up and try to get that strong smell. Pretty sure you guys know that. Yeah, if you want to break it up, it almost smells cinnamony. It's kind of strong. The camphor tree in its Latin name actually has the prefix cinnamon in it. So that's kind of where it comes from. We have lemon-scented eucalyptus trees, so a similar case might be with those lemon-scented eucalyptus trees. But yeah, you can tell a lot about a tree by its leaf, by its branch structure. So pretty helpful in identifying trees, and also just neat, you get a good smell of it. It's fun. Alright, so in urban environments, it's extremely important to consider the right tree in the right place. As we're doing with our grant, I know Duarte has been taking some time and really finding good locations for these trees because there's so much to consider. overhead utilities, underground utilities. Is a tree going to pose a risk when it goes down the line? These are things we consider extremely in detail in our urban environment, compared to our wildlands where trees grow more naturally. It's going to be a more natural landscape. We consider all these things. A huge one is irrigation for these grant projects. Unfortunately, some cities or some communities aren't as into taking care of their trees, or they have a broken irrigation line and that tree now doesn't have as much water. So these are all important things to consider when we're planting trees, because it's one thing to have a tree planted, and I talk about all these benefits, but we also want to minimize the costs. We don't want to see broken sidewalks. We don't want to have underground utility repairs or a need for that. We want to keep the benefits as high as possible with the cost as low as possible. So that's something to consider in right tree, right place. Just highlights that. And it's important to know what we want out of the tree when we're planting it. For our grant, we're going for large canopy, high carbon sequestration, so these are going to be larger trees as is, and that's kind of why we're geared to parks, Cool Parks Grant Project. And then keeping it diverse. We're not going to plant all 201 species, we're going to try to keep it diverse. Keep trees that are drought tolerant, so we want to minimize water costs and water needs. That'll lead to the success of the tree later on. And this is just another visual from the Arbor Foundation. Like I mentioned, we're probably more in the oak and pine area for this grant project, but a lot of small trees are great to plant in front yards, in medians, both on the street and parkways on the side, depending on if there's overhead utility or not. And then, so yeah, these are some of the species we're using. The coast live oak, which I mentioned, is a California native tree. A lot of people like it. A nice big canopy. It's great for parks, and it's one of kind of really the only natives that does well in our urban environment. So it's highly planted, highly sought after. The Chinese elm, which is a really nice tree. You can tell it's an elm by its trunk. It has like a cream kind of trunk color. And then Arizona ash, which we're planting some of. And we also have the southern live oak, the camphor tree, which is that you just smelled, and then Canary Island pine. So you might be kind of curious, does anybody know where the Canary Islands are? They're right off the coast of Spain. So you're probably curious, why are we getting a tree all the way from Spain? Well, Spain actually has what's called a Mediterranean climate, and the area we're in right now is also known as a Mediterranean climate. There's only about 8 of them throughout the world, and so a tree that's going to do well over there does well over here because it's a similar climate, and the tree is exposed to similar environmental aspects, so that's why it does well over here. Similarly, we see a lot of trees from Australia. Australian willow tree is popular. As you probably noticed, there's a lot of eucalyptus trees, and those are from over there. So that's why we pull trees from different parts of the world, because they'll also do good in our urban environment. And then for tree planting, come planting day, or if you think about planting a tree on your own, some common tips we provide and we want to make you aware of is, first of all, when you're planting, a lot of our volunteers get too excited, so they just want to dig, but it's important to have like a clear space. You don't want to be tripping over shovels. Keep your shovel face down. You don't want there to be any kickback. And then how wide you dig your hole is important. I didn't touch on it too much as I should have in the previous diagram, but if you notice, those tree roots grow wide, right? They're not growing deep. So as it reflects in digging a hole for a tree, you want the hole to be wide, so you're able to get the roots to grow wide rather than deep, because the roots aren't going to go as deep. It's important to get the tree established by digging it about, we recommend 2 to 3 times as wide as the gallon. So on a tree like this, pick it up. You want a hole that's going to be a little bit wider than the root ball, probably like just that wide to trim up the soil and to be able to have the roots grow that way, so that's not compacted. We've seen in really compacted soil, if you just dig a hole that's big enough for this, the roots start girdling, so the tree ends up pretty much like choking itself. It's kind of sad to see. So you want to loosen up that soil. You get them so that the roots grow wide. You loosen this up to get the roots stimulated, and then you plant it as deep as the root ball is. So you don't want to go any deeper than that. You want to keep the hole at the bottom pretty untouched, because you don't want the tree to submerge or anything like that, especially when it comes time to water. If the soil is a little loose or not as compacted, we'll notice that planting events that as soon as we put water, the tree starts to lean, especially the bigger ones, because there's too much loosening of the soil underneath. And so, we always aim for wider than deeper. And then for us, food safety is important, especially on the volunteer events, and you just want to have fun and plant a tree. So some of the common tools we'll use, not all of them will have our volunteers using this.
One of the things trees have is a tap root, isn't it, that goes down, or do they not all have it? And does that just go through the soil, then you don't have to loosen it around?
Yeah.
Yeah, taproot is common for most trees, and remember that's mostly for anchoring per se. It takes in a little food source, but it's not like a carrot, exactly like a carrot, but most trees will have a taproot of some sort. Now, digging a hole the right height and depth is important because you want to be able to place the tree in at the right level. But it doesn't mean, the bottom shouldn't be really compacted. When you dig, it should be soft, but not super extra deep, where it's all so soft that you start, because water and air will start playing with that and things settle after a while. So there's still enough in a traditional digging scenario, even if we go wider, which is good. Not all cases, unfortunately, based on space, allows you to do it exactly like the book says, but your taproot should be fine, because if you dig a hole that's deep enough for the plant or tree, but you don't compact the bottom, it will take root.
Alright, so we recommend gloves. You don't want to blister your hands too badly. And then stakes is what we'll, as West Coast, will come by after the planting events. We do quality control. Stake the trees. We put 2 stakes in to help the trees grow, but give them enough leniency to help establish a strong base. Rakes are always good. Burlap to kind of have moisture control. And that's a great picture of how to mulch. I'll get into it later, but we recommend donuts, not volcanoes of mulch. I'll get into why that's important later. And then hopefully we don't get any picks, going for pre-dug holes or any soil that's not too compacted. So yeah. And then what to avoid, like we kind of already touched on, you want it leveled at the root ball. You don't want it any deeper. You want to make sure it's vertical facing when you step back. And planting is so important because right here you're establishing the tree. This tree is going to be in the ground for 40 years, so why not take an extra few minutes to get it right? Is what I think. Any questions on tree planting? All right, any points would you care to add, or anything we should hit on? Yeah. All right.
I got a container like this. It's probably a good idea to pull the tree out of the container first, and sometimes dirt falls away, and from there then you can actually get an idea of what the true root ball is like.
Yeah. So
because it might happen that the tree might be newly planted, and so you're thinking, oh, I have to plant like an 8-inch deep hole, and you pull it out, and a lot of the dirt falls away, and then you end up with like a 4-inch or 6-inch, and you got to add dirt back in.
Yeah, because the tree's pretty small, it's the container.
Yeah.
So it might be only about this big.
So it's better to pull the tree out of the container, set it on the ground, and then measure it, and then a quick way to measure the depth of the tree is with the handle of the shovel.
Right here.
Yeah, and then you just put your finger on it, and you can use that to measure that deep the hole.
Any other questions on planting? All right, so next up we have a video, but I'm just going to play the trivia as at the beginning. I think we hit planting pretty well, so if you guys want to just be aware of this question that's going to pop off, the audio will also go off, and just kind of keep it in mind and keep your answer in mind. So here we go.
What is the average lifespan of an urban tree? 18 years, 28 years, 8 years, or 38 years?
All right, what do you guys think? 38. Any other guesses?
28 was urban.
Yeah, urban trees. What would you say? 28. All right. The answer is actually 8 years. Urban trees. Yeah, they're right. 8 years. That's shocking to everybody. I don't think we really had anyone guess the right answer to that. The reason being is that that young trees often die quickly. We'll put in 250-gallon trees and 10 will die in the first week. So that statistic is a little skewed, right, to trees that are dying in their young age. So we're seeing a lot of mortality when they're in their year 1, year 2. It's really hard to get a young tree established in an urban environment. They're susceptible to so much different issues. I mean, vandalism, soccer balls, weed whackers. It's really unfortunate. Over in City of LA, we planted in their parks. We had a triple stake them just to keep it caged, basically, and try to mitigate that issue of vandalism. Also, with watering needs and establishing a tree is also difficult as it is. So you have vandalism, all these other urban factors to that, and it really decreases its success. So yeah, there's something to note. And then key planting pointers. Is discard that picture. We don't burlap our trees, we put them in containers. That's something they do probably on the East Coast. But yeah, 3 times wider is always a good goal. You end up planting 2 times wider, you get tired, but that's good. And then when you backfill, you make sure it's compacted. I know that seems kind of counterintuitive. You're digging it and then you're compacting it again, but treating that soil is really helpful for getting the roots established. And then we also hope that trees get watered as soon as they're in the ground to help get that going. All right, and then for our planning event, which is going to be October 12th, it's going to be at Encanto Park. We're inviting a lot of arborists out there, elected officials. We'll have our shovels together, and just inviting anyone really that wants to plant trees. All are welcome. It's going to be a fun day, I think. Nice morning, nice Saturday morning. All right, so factors that influence growth. I already kind of mentioned light. It's important that a tree is exposed to light, that the soil is rich. A lot of people ask if they should add nutrients when they plant a tree. We don't necessarily recommend that because we want the tree to get established with the native soil. We don't want to be confusing the tree too much with adding nutrients, and then those roots start growing and they don't see the nutrients anymore. So it's important as to get the tree established with the native soil. So after a tree's planted, what should we check for? Irrigation is something we check for prior and make sure that's installed. The structure, making sure it's upright. And then we'll be removing the nursery stake and putting tubing to get that tree established like I mentioned. And then making sure the roots are in a good place with how you dig the hole, how you loosen the roots, especially if you see the roots up to the container. When you plant a tree, you want to get them stimulated, give them a little loose so that they can start growing. And then young tree care is very important, especially for anyone who's adopting a young tree, because you're able to kind of shape it how you want. It's easier to clip off a little branch than it is to cut down a big one with a chainsaw 20, 30 years down the line. So I think that's important, especially when you're getting a tree for your house, your front yard, your backyard. So what would a structural pruning look like on this tree? Right now, it kind of just looks like a plant, right? It doesn't look like a tree at all. And it has what's called co-dominant leaders right now. It's growing from 2 different sides, which you don't necessarily want for a tree, especially an urban tree. That's going to cause more issues with potential risks down the line. It's not going to look nice. It's not going to provide that kind of shape. So what you would maybe do, a month after planting this tree, after it's kind of established, you would go ahead and cut off. I would cut off this one, this co-dominant branch, because it looks a little weaker than this one. And then start forming it as a single leader. Maybe stake it down the line if it's growing a little to the left. You can stake it like this so that starts growing upright and so on. So I think that's one of the benefits of planting a young tree. You're able to shape it how you want. Maybe you do want to put a hammock in between these 2 down the line. That would be cool. I don't know how strong the integrity of that structure would be. So something to consider. Like I mentioned, you want to get, I think that tree height here, this would be about, way taller than this before you want to take out all the understory. You kind of want to let it grow out first and then structure prune as you go on.
So how does that tree like in that community? How long did it take for it to get to the big side?
That's a good question. It depends on species first off. I would say, let's say this is 20 feet tall, maybe 15, 20 years, depending on the tree species, depending on the growth rate. Yeah, some trees grow a lot faster than others. And yeah, like at this height, if you're like right here, you're leaving still the suckers on and all that, but as it grows, you want to clip them before they get too big and you have to chainsaw them off.
So whenever you look at in and out, right, they always have palm trees that are X, right? But what you notice is when they start growing where they're permanently set, the trunks start straightening up. Is that natural to all trees?
That is pretty characteristic of palm trees.
Well, I'm familiar with, not that I work for In and Out, but they actually train them before they bring them to their site. So I think there's early training where they actually are growing it like on the groundward and then making them sort of round. And I don't know that technique, but I do know that they do that intentionally. Because trees are funny. I mean, trees and/or palms, it's all about the environment, really. And if you've driven through South Pasadena in some areas where you see these giant trees that are bowed, they're just so picturesque. And you wonder, how did it get bent like that? Well, sycamores will do that, or they'll twist, and they didn't correct that early on, but it added a lot of character. So trees will, in their right environment, if they're competing for light or whatever, they'll do what they need to do, but they can actually encourage that. Palm trees, I think they do that to create that bow, and then they tie them together, and then they grow that way.
Interesting.
By the way, I like traffic.
Alright, so post-planting, tree care isn't done as soon as the tree gets in the ground. There's a lot of follow-up that we do, like I mentioned, social pruning, making sure the trees are getting watered. As a part of the grant, we make sure we check on the trees. So with public trees, we monitor them 20 times over the next few years to make sure the stakes are on right, make sure they're getting pruned, make sure they're getting watered. And then for the private trees, the small ones, we'll be coming over by 4 times to make any recommendations, to see if the tree's getting enough water and so on. And then you can always send us information on trees if you guys have a question with, whether it's the tree you adopted or the tree you planted. We're always open to hearing, if there's any issues with the trees as part of our projects.
What size trees are going to be planted?
Great question. So we'll be planting 15-gallon trees. So right here it's a 15-gallon, only a few feet. The ones for the event will be 15 gallons, so a little wider than that, probably as tall as me. That's up. Pretty thin, depending on the tree species. Pretty thin. Yeah.
The great thing about that is that it allows for early training. It's a good size, but it allows us to kind of have it structurally guided and pruned. It seems like you said, it's much easier to have early training pruning is much easier than inheriting trees that are already 30 years old with problems, and then it's hard to remedy those.
I just want everybody to know that the Building Together is actually also working for October 12th. We're going to have helpers out there if digging needs to be done. So we're actually wanting seniors and folks who wouldn't otherwise be able to dig. That's okay. We'll have help there. But I think the whole idea here is to get out there and be involved and be part of this event.
Yeah, if you're out there with mulching, water, whatever it is, it should be a fun day in the park. And then water guide, like I mentioned, you want to hone in on where the drip line is because that's where you're getting the most effect or the most benefit for the tree roots and the water. And we typically recommend, year 1, 5 gallons of water twice a week, especially the time right now, and then kind of levels off with less frequent, more in-depth watering. Some people are always kind of concerned with, am I watering too much? A good rule of thumb is checking the soil. So maybe it rains and it's, Tuesday at 5 o'clock when you normally water. Well, just check the soil. If it's still moist, you're good for another couple of days and you don't have to water that night. So that's what I always use, especially under a bed of mulch. Mulch does a good job at capturing water or keeping soil moist. So that's a good rule of thumb of, checking the soil conditions before watering again because, you don't want to put too much water. Right. So getting into mulch, it comes in very different range of types, depending on what tree's been chipped and all that. And like I mentioned, it's important to do donuts rather than volcanoes. A lot of people like to put mulch up to the tree trunk, but what you're doing there is actually suffocating the tree. You want to keep it around the tree so that it keeps grass out, keeps weeds out, but you don't want to put it all the way up to the trunk. 6 inches is, pretty good distance to keep it. So I think one of the best things you can do for young trees is put mulch around it. It helps keep the soil moist. It helps dilute nutrients as the mulch breaks down. Like I mentioned, it suppresses weeds and grass. Because if you go back to this picture, if you have grass growing all the way up to here, when you water the drip line, that grass is going to take all the water, and it's not going to be able to get down all the way to the roots of the tree. So that's one huge benefit of mulch. And then just another thing I wanted to add, tree care and concern for birds and other wildlife. Trees really the primary habitat for birds, and so there's even a best management practice because a lot of cities weren't letting us do any tree work during the habitat or during the nesting season. So it's finding the balance of if the tree needs to be trimmed, or if we're doing a certain trimming cycle, managing how we do that during nesting season when there's a bird in the tree. If we need to have a biologist out there, so something important to know. And I think this is one of the cool parts of what we get to do. So trees in our urban environments are removed for a variety of reasons. I mean, that tree shouldn't have been planted there to begin with, under that utility, your disease, bad form of structure, or maybe their time just came that they need to be removed. So something that we're starting to see more and more is this idea of urban wood. It's locally sourced. It's coming down already from trees in our environment, so why not take advantage of that, reuse it, create it into products. Right here I have 2 cutting boards as a part of the program we have over at West Coast Arbors. This is black walnut, pretty nice little cutting board, and then this one's carob. So carob trees, to me, they look pretty ugly, but they produce a really nice wood, I think so. Pretty interesting thing that we're seeing more and more of, benches, slide tables with, that like funny looking glass in the middle. It's cool because it's locally sourced, so it's not shipped from far away. It's not harvested in our wildland forest environment, and it's already coming down, so we're making some sort of use of that, and it's capturing that carbon and creating more benefit by not, emitting that carbon back to the environment. We're keeping it captured with products like that. So pretty cool stuff we have going on. And then something I want to touch on just briefly is advocacy. I mean, urban forests really affect everyone in the community. Trees, whether we're driving, whether we're using a park, whether we live outside of a parkway where there's trees. Everyone has a role in urban forestry and the benefits that trees are providing to our communities. So we're always encouraging people to get out to council meetings, encourage whether it's policy changes, budget changes to improve our urban forests because we see so much benefit from them. And this picture I really like because it takes so many hands to plant one tree. Whether it comes down from getting the funding to finding the right location to having someone actually plant the tree, it touches so many hands. So it's important to know, especially with our projects where it's so many different people involved. And some good resources. The California Forest Council, like I mentioned, they're part of this grant. Western Chapter has a lot of good technical resources and can connect you to really good arborists. Cal Relief has a bunch of great resources. Tree Purple is something you might be familiar with. If you have Instagram, Trees of LA, they're always posting pictures with the species name and a little breakdown of what the tree is, what that species is, where it's at, and all that. So, pretty good resources. Treesaregood.org also provides a lot of beneficial resources. We have one back there on why not to chop trees. So if you want to take that flyer, and it has that website link on there. So, very good resources on these websites, Instagram pages, and whatnot. Pretty cool stuff. So I promise this is the last section before we go outside. I think it's important to identify arboriculture as an industry. Not that many people are exposed to it just because it's not taught in schools and whatnot, but it's awesome. You get to touch a lot of different aspects, whether it's policy changes, whether you're actually climbing trees and trimming them. An arborist is someone that practices arboriculture, whether it's cultivation of the trees, management of the trees, or even the study. I think we have a pretty good mix of arborists right here. Someone who's has a private company, consultants, arborists that help out, and even municipal and public arborists, Gerard, and a bunch of different certifications on that. And just some of the fields that we go from nurseries to even milling and processing the wood. company. He looks like a lumberjack, so he fits the role of tree carver pretty good. That's something he did out of Ventura, like a cool little, what is that, eagle, a hawk, kind of thing that is. And then, huge role in urban forestry in the nonprofit world. We see that there's benefits with trees, so a lot of grant money gets allocated there, neat stuff. And then this awesome ISA flow chart that's provided. If you could click it, it'll give you kind of the detail of all the different avenues in arboriculture. Whether you're starting from entry in groundworking or if you have like an educational background and how you maneuver through the industry, which is pretty neat, pretty helpful, I think. All right. Any questions on that, on arboriculture? All right, so next is the fun part of this workshop. It's going to be the walk around with our two arborists, Jimmy and Ted. Very great arborists. I'm looking forward to it myself. And we'll take a 5-minute break right now, regroup, and then we'll head outside for the walk around. Does that sound good? All right, cool. Let's take a quick little coffee break, and then also we'll be wrapping off the tree and 2 of our cool park snacks when we get back to the walk.